I wanted to ask, because toxic masculinity is a sort of phrase that's thrown around, right? So there's apparently there's masculinity and there's a toxic version of masculinity, and I wonder, like, let's say some people say that, let's say, masculinity is competitive,
right,
or it's ambitious,
right?
Those can be positive traits and negative traits in both in every sense. Is there something worth preserving about some of these traits that might now be identified as toxic masculinity? Because there's a few people online on YouTube and stuff, academics like Jordan Peterson, who've come out with, Andrew Tate, we'll get into that later if you'd like, that there's sort of they're trying to recapture masculinity and sort of extract it from the idea of being toxic. Where do you stand on that kind of thing, this idea that masculinity is inherently toxic?
I found it almost confusing at the point as to where exactly you draw the line to positive masculine traits and toxic masculine traits. Masculine traits are masculine traits and feminine traits are feminine traits. I think it comes down to the person. You can get very toxic feminine traits, which could be maybe you get a girl who's overly competitive, but then is that toxic masculinity? Then I did some research as to where toxic masculinity comes from, and you can't consider Wikipedia. But apparently what happened was, I think in the 90s there were tests done on incarcerated, so prisoners essentially, and those prisoners who had to exhibit almost absolute aggression, where basically, so I accidentally stepped on your shoe, so you shiv me.
Right.
That extent was what was considered in that test toxic, and those were the toxic men. It's just that after that, a couple of psychiatrists or psychologists got a hold of the word, and everything that goes wrong, deforestation is happening, toxic masculinity. People are not eating enough soup, or toxic masculinity. So I think it's thrown on a lot. The interesting thing was when John Peterson came out and Andrew Tate came out and said, no, it's okay to be a man. There was a lot of men, a lot of young men that really resonated with that, myself included, where it was almost a waking moment as to, what really is wrong with being competitive? I mean, you want a country to prosper. You need competitive industries. For you to be able to compete with your competitor, you have to be able to, so you sleep 8 hours, I'll sleep 7 hours and do a bit more work. I don't think that's inherently toxic per se. I think now toxic masculinity is just clickbait.
Okay.
It's just a phrase that's thrown out there so that you will say,
how about something like aggression, being aggressive, or being, trying to control the situation? Is that, can we call that toxic masculinity?
But then it's also aggressive against who? So, for example,
context.
So if I'm walking with my mom down the street and someone tries to mug me, and if I'm aggressive, it's like, oh no, sorry, I don't want to be toxic masculine. But if you take firefighters, or the police, or the army, right? And if I, as a firefighter, had to break down the house, I can't say, well, I'm so sorry, but you have to be able to push yourself to a boundary. And it is also very fun to me that in that context, then there's no toxic masculinity. Then aggression is completely fine. If somebody is being robbed and the police come and take down that criminal in your house, then that is okay. But then if you see somebody else being a bit more competitive or a bit more angry, then that's a bad thing. So I think it always comes down to context as to what is being what in what situation. And I think again, you get toxic traits on both genders. It's not just, it's just masculine or feminine.